Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Robin Wansley, and I am the chair of the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee, and I'm going to call to order our regular scheduled meeting for today, July 28th, 2025. Before we begin the meeting, I do want to offer a friendly reminder to all committee members, staff, and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. And with that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Ellison.
Here.
Cashman.
Here.
Chogtai.
Present.
Vice Chair Palmisano.
Present.
And Chair Wansley.
Present.
There are 6 members present.
Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. Again, I'll remind my colleagues that we'll be using speaker management today, so please make sure to sign in. And if you need some assistance with that, please check in with our clerks. That said, we do have 14 items on the consent agenda, which I'll now read for the public record. The first is a gift acceptance from the Mayor's Innovation Project for travel, lodging, and conference registration and meal expenses. Number 2 is a gift acceptance from the Big Cities Health Coalition of Registration, Lodging, Transportation, and Meals and Incidentals. The third is a gift acceptance from the Illinois Environmental Health Association of Transportation and Lodging. Fourth is a gift acceptance from the National Association of County Health Officials of Registration, Hotel, Airfare, Meal, and Transportation. 5 is a contract with BRI Parent Inc. for Benefit Resource LLC for COBRA administration services. 6 is contracts with the Regent of the University of Minnesota for bench scale ozone testing research. 7 is a contract with Hagen Christensen and McWayne Architects PA for architectural and engineering design services. 8 is a contract amendment with UKG Chrono Systems for providing timekeeping and scheduling services software. 9 is contracts with community-based development organizations for workforce development services. 10 is a license agreement with Metropolitan Council for the Metro Pass program. 11 is a bid for West 44th Signal and ADA improvements. 12 is contract amendments with multiple agencies for the 2025 Community Outreach and Safety Program. 13 is contracts with Restoration Inc. for 2025 Minneapolis Strategic Outreach Initiative Services. 14 is contracts with various vendors for the 2025 through 2028 Violence Prevention Services for Neighborhood Safety Department, and the amount not to exceed $3.1 million in total. And with that, I will move all items for approval, and we'll see if there's any questions in the queue. Okay. Oh, I see Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you so much, Chair Wansley. I was wondering if anyone from Neighborhood Safety Department was here. I'm just wondering if they can remind us which zones are zones 1 and 2 for the Minneapolis Strategic Outreach Initiative services that will be covered by Restoration Inc.
I will see. Oh, there we go. We have Director Harrington, and I will also name, I'm pretty sure you're going to answer the question, but we have also worked with Director Harrington to give a presentation update in their quarterly update reports to the Public Health and Safety Committee in September. I believe that's going to be taking place, where you'll give a fuller overview of the status of the Minneapolis program and GBI and all those things, and also the updated zones. But I will defer to Director Harrington to respond to your question.
Thank you, Chair Wansley.
Councilmember Cashman. The areas that we're talking about are areas 1 and 2, both in North Minneapolis in Ward 5. Area 1 is Lowry Avenue down to 26th Avenue North, and Emerson to about Lyndale on the east and west. Area 2 is directly below that, so 26th Avenue down to Broadway, and Emerson over to just east of the 94 interstate.
Okay, thank you. And I'm trying to remember which number is the area that covers Ward 7, 6, and 10. Is that the last one? It's area number 4, according to our council vice president. Do you have a plan yet for this area that we're still waiting on?
Chair Wansley, Area 4 is currently covered by Restoration Inc. It's in North Minneapolis, also in Ward 5.
Okay.
I believe the area that you were talking about is what we were calling Area number 5.
Area
That was
5.
Stevens Square, Loring Heights, that area.
In Whittier?
And Whittier, yes, thank you. That area does currently not have a provider through the Violence Interrupter Program, but we are looking at coverage for that area through the Violence Prevention Master Contract.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Director Harrington. And again, we'll receive a more fuller update on these programs in the Public Health and Safety Committee. I'll share the date for that. I believe it's the first one in September, but I'll share that at CAL. But again, thank you. I put myself in queue just to speak to item number 6. I know I had asked for clarity for this during agenda setting, but regarding the contract with the Regents of the University of Minnesota for bench scale ozone testing research. I believe this is with what department? Public Health? No, Public Works. So seeing if we had anyone from Public Works, and if okay, so give them a moment to join us, and if not, I can also work with our clerks to do a staff memo on this. Just waiting.
Can we get somebody better at home?
Oh, wow. Wow. They can't hear you through these mics, but there is lots of just, derogatory language being shared about people singing back here. Okay, I'm going to assume if Public Works staff gets here by the time we're through consent, that's fine. They can still respond. But I will note my question with the clerks. I wanted to get clarity of, again, why is this contract being routed through the regions, specifically instead of a particular research laboratory department or division within the U of M. So wanted to get clarity on that. All right. With that, no one else is in queue, so I will ask all those in favor of the consent agenda items, say aye. Aye. Those not in favor.
No on 13. Aye on everything except 13, please.
Okay. Everything except 13. And then that carries with one nay on item 13. So with that, we next have a presentation related to item number 15, which is a contract amendment with Canopy Roots LLC. I would like to have or invite up Fire Chief Brian Tyner to come up and speak on this item. This was something that was requested too in terms of giving us an update on what is happening with our behavior crisis response program, and specifically details related to the amendment and the amount that's being requested. So, hello, Chief Tyner.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair Wansley and members of the committee. I have a short, I'm gonna turn this towards me so I can. All right. About the behavioral crisis response. As you know, the behavioral crisis response was transferred to the fire department on January 1st of this year through council action. But first, I want to talk about what behavioral crisis response is, just to kind of level set. Behavioral crisis response aims to de-escalate nonviolent crisis situations by compassionately responding to the unique needs of community members. Some quick facts about behavioral crisis response. As I mentioned, we transitioned the contract to the fire department on January 1st of this year. The response call type is for mental or behavioral health only. It was a little bit broader than that prior to coming to the fire department. The coverage is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's dispatched through our emergency communication center by the 5 police precincts. It was set up to correspond with the police precincts. We hope to get that corrected sometime in the future and put it in the fire districts, which make a lot more sense. The response vehicles are 5 vans with 2 behavioral health clinicians or responders on there each, and then 1 supervisor vehicle with 1 clinician. In 2023, we had a call volume of 6,666 calls. That ballooned in 24 to 11,167. This year through June is 4,722, and that decrease can be attributed to the fact that we really focused in on the type of calls that they're going to respond to, which are calls that are related to behavioral crisis response and not just a check welfare call or some other issue that's not related to a behavioral crisis response. And that was done through the request of Canopy Roots. A BCR response calls are incidents in which a person's actions, their feelings, or behavior puts them at risk of hurting themselves or someone else, or puts them at risk of being unable to care for themselves or function in the community in a healthy manner. A behavioral crisis response now attends to the following behaviors, and this is not all-inclusive, but emotional or hysterical reactions. That's typically what we think of when we think of behavioral crisis. Psychiatric problems, suicidal ideation or threats, but not currently harming themselves. Once it gets to that point, it becomes a police issue. Sex trafficking victims, group homes and shelters with people in distress if they're having a mental health or a behavioral crisis there, they will respond. They don't just respond because they're in a group health or home or shelter. It has to be associated with behavioral crisis. And emotional de-escalation. This is not meant for situations involving weapons, physical violence, medical emergencies, or situations that are not a behavioral or mental health crisis. We have the police and fire departments for those. Canopy Roots no longer responds to check welfare calls. I just mentioned that. Void of a mental or behavioral crisis. In other words, all the services they provide are tied to a behavioral crisis. But before that, they were responding to a little bit of everything, and it was really outside of their scope. Or at least the scope we contracted them for. Some new implementations that we put together since implementing them or the transition to fire is that we've opened up the BCR responders to visit MPD roll calls, fire stations, chief meetings. We've offered the fire stations to them 24/7 if they want to respond from there, if they just want to come use the facilities, just hang out with the guys in between calls. That is open to them. And also utilization of the Lake Street Safety Center. We've modified and clarified those BCR call types, which I mentioned earlier, with both dispatch and Canopy Roots so that we're all on the same page and all in agreement. We resumed the BCR operations work group meetings, which had broken down when it was still in PMI. And those meetings include fire, MECC, police, Canopy Roots, and I think Hennepin County is missing on there, but Hennepin County paramedics also attend those meetings. We've transitioned the BCR fleet vehicles to the fire department. That has made things go a little bit smoother. First thing we did was we obtained driver's license information for all BCR contracted responders. We originally didn't have that on file, so we didn't know who was driving our vehicles. We monitor any accidents they have and make sure that the repairs are prioritized so that we can get those vans back on the street. That wasn't happening before. And we've added a supervisor vehicle to the BCR fleet. Right now, it's a car, a seasonal vehicle, as fleet calls it. They're going to be upgraded to an SUV here in the coming weeks, here pretty quick, maybe even this week. We've also worked on data collections with BCR. In the past, they were using SharePoint documents to collect all the information, and we didn't really have access to it. But they were kind enough, upon request, to send those to us, so we're all caught up on that. But we also implemented a BCR data work group to determine, if are we collecting the information we need? Is there information we're collecting that we don't really need, which a lot of it was that, and really boiled it down to what we need for our operations to be able to tell if it's working or not, what they're doing, and also for the Safe and Thriving Communities report. We worked with MEC to create a new BCR CAD clearing form, and what that is it's a form that when they go on a run and they're on their computer, the same run that they get their run on, they can answer some questions at the end of the run, which goes right into the computer-aided dispatch system, which means we have the information right away, which means we're not having to wait for SharePoint anymore. And that was just approved, and the implementation is just about done. Right now we're in the process of training BCR responders on it, and we're tentatively going live with that on August 8th. And I think that'll make things a lot better too, and it's a lot less questions than what they were having to answer before. And that concludes my presentation. So with that, we're just asking your support to extend the contract for another year. It is set to expire on August 15th. We're looking to extend it one more year, which would be the last extension possible on this contract before I believe we'd have to go out to RFP or find a more permanent solution. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chief Tyner. I have a few council members. First, Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you so much, Chair Wansley, and thank you, Chief Tyner. This is a lot of progress in the last 6 months, so really, really glad to see it, and thank you for presenting it as well.
Thank you. I'd like to give credit to Assistant Chief Melanie Rucker, who has led that transition.
Great. Great work. And then I just have a couple of questions about things that I hear in community that I would like to understand a little bit better. So the first is, how are we measuring the success of BCR? I know there are many ways, many metrics by which we can measure success of our public safety. And I think, it's not just about the response times. It's about solving and helping these individuals in the longer term. So can you speak a little bit about how we measure the success of this program?
Yeah, so while response time and utilization rates are all important, we also measure it by outcomes. So BCR is not designed to take you from beginning to end, but it is designed to handle the emergency in the moment. And so successful outcomes is a big part of what we look at when we're measuring the success of the program. So I think the three main things are utilization rates. Response time is important, but not the most important. And really the most important is outcomes. And are we getting people the help they need, both in the moment and are we able to connect them to services when they're willing to be connected to services to have longer term success.
That is my second question. So which Hennepin County social services or other social services are the BCR teams referring and using the most to help these individuals?
Yeah, I would say I really should. That's really a better question for Canopy Roots. But I know 1800 Chicago is a Hennepin County facility that is primarily used for behavioral crisis response, and that's the one that we use the most. But we also do use private people if requested.
So
we don't force them to go to any particular place.
And then if the individuals that are being served are experiencing homelessness, is there a specific protocol for how to help them, get into a shelter or some kind of waiting list for supportive housing?
There is. So Canopy Roots, through the contract, they do have resources that they can offer to homeless people, but it does have to be tied to a behavioral crisis. So that was one of those things that when it first began, when they were trying to kind of do everything and be everything to everybody. They might just do that with it not being tied to anything else. Now, it does have to be tied to a behavioral crisis response. So if they respond to somebody in a behavioral crisis response who is also homeless, there are resources in place that we can connect them to assist them with that as well.
Got it. And then lastly, you said that BCR, Canopy Roots is no longer just doing welfare checks. It has to be a behavioral crisis. And so who then is doing welfare checks, or who are those calls being dispatched to?
So welfare checks is actually us and the police both do those. So that's who's doing them right now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Those are the questions that I had about this.
Thank you.
Next, I have Vice Chair Palmisano.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief Rucker, for the integration of this work. I can see a lot of value in closer collaboration with our other first responders, particularly the facilities. In my ride along, I found it hard for that hub and spoke model to constantly be going in and out of the Banks building in Northeast Minneapolis. It seems like, in a way, it gets a lot more difficult to serve people depending on where they're geographically located in the city. And so some of these vans being able to, have some temporary refuge at one of the many fire stations across our city, that just seems like a natural fit. So thank you. Thank you for inviting that collaboration. Thank you for making that explicit. In the RCA, in speaking about this one-year extension, it says this will allow us to evaluate the program more extensively and decide on the parameters of it moving forward. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that? I liked hearing about how you're being more careful and specific about what these teams get deployed to, but what sorts of parameters will you be evaluating? Do you know yet?
So that's a big part of it. I think we've settled in on what they're going to respond to and what they're not, but they have talked about maybe expanding that, but through a separate contract. We haven't got there yet, so that's something we need to evaluate. We need to evaluate if we have the right number of vans out there, if we need more, if we need less. We need to we've only had it for 6 months, so, and I literally just got all the figures from last year, like last week, and I was on vacation, so I haven't looked at them yet. But, are we providing the times of day that the vans are out? Do we need 5 24/7? Do we need 3 at this time and 5 at this time? Do we need 3 at this time and 7 at that time? So looking at all the utilization rates at the response times, at the outcomes, all of those things. And then, in partnership with Canopy Roots, just determining what's the best way to move forward. I mean, kind of all of this was set up kind of in a cookie cutter fashion. And I think it's time that we can maybe really focus on what has worked well, what could work better. Again, transitioning it over to the fire system where we're working with the fire districts and through the fire dispatch as opposed to working through police dispatch, I think is a natural transition, and all of those things. And so the data, I think we've gotten hammered out. I would like to tweak the data collection a little more. I'd love it if we could do the data collection through our own fire incident reporting system that we're are getting ready to go live with here next week. And so we've improved it, but there's still room for improvement, and we'd like to be able to identify what that is.
Thank you,
And then
Chief.
put it into the next contract more explicitly.
I like the way that you've been thinking about this, so thank you.
Thank you.
And then just me and Q, something you shared, Chief Tyner, was around getting BCR either dispatched into or through the fire precincts instead of them now being dispatched from the police precincts. Can you share a little bit if that's something that the work group is going to be finalizing that transition plan, if there's a timeline attached to that, and if OCS will be part of those conversations? Because I think you mentioned that at some point those conversations broke down when they were in PMI. Maybe you meant like when they were in the neighborhood safety
That was
department.
the meetings.
Oh, the meetings.
the meetings.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And while they were in neighborhood safety department.
No, it was back when they were
Oh,
in
that's crazy.
BMI. Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's it. Just thinking through like who's going to be overseeing that component of trying to get that transition over into the fire precincts.
So really, that's primarily an IT project. It's really just about changing up the designations in the CAD system, bringing it from the police's side to the fire side. I make it sound easy. It's not. It's going to take some time. I was told at first that it can't be done, but I know it can be done. So I'll just keep pushing to get it done. But if it lives with fire, and it seems like it's going to be here for the foreseeable future, it makes sense to me to align it as much with fire as humanly possible. And so that's the goal. So we haven't started that transition yet.
Okay.
So I don't have a time to put on it, but I'm not going to rest until it happens. So it will happen.
And you said IT is kind of the main driver that, or holder of that work that would be part of like guiding that
It would
transition.
be IT, and it's the MEC's, it's dispatches, MECC's system that we're talking about. So it's not our system, it's their system. So
Okay, and yeah, interesting that they're sharing. They can't adopt that. Okay, yeah. Well, look.
they
forward-
can,
Yeah.
but it's going to cost. It's going to take time.
Oh, money. That's it. Okay, we're boiling down to that. All right. Well, that makes sense. Hopefully, that's something we could see, like in budget presentations too, in terms of what does that actually look like or translate into costs. I think this body funded the transition to fire, and everyone wants to see this program be set up for success. And if this is something that aligns with the smooth, deployment of a critical service being used, like I think council would love to know what are the budgetary constraints that's either hindering or that could support that success. So flagging that for VP Chuck Ty, and if it's fire or OCS, like budget presentations around what that will look like. So with that, no one else is in queue. Thank you, Chief Tyner. I will ask if I can have a motion of approval for this item.
Second.
Awesome. That has been motioned and seconded. So with that, I will do just a simple voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those not in favor. All right. Well, the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you again, Chief Tyner, for presenting today.
Thank you.
Next, we have, where am I at in my script? Item number 16, which is a receive and file presentation on Outcomes Minneapolis, and it will be provided by the Performance Management and Innovation Team, specifically Director Kira Hasbergen. I will defer to you to take it away.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, council members. I'm excited today to provide our quarter two, a little after quarter two, and thank you for being flexible with our scheduling update from the Performance Management and Innovation Department. We're excited to let you know all the things that we have done since the last time that we presented to you. My name is Kira Hasbargen. I'm the director of the department, and today I will be joined by members of our team to give you these updates as they lead the work, and it's a great opportunity for you all to start putting faces with names. So to get us started, we really want to highlight a few of our key Outcomes Minneapolis performance measures, the city's flagship performance management program. So I'm going to go over, these are the measures that we developed, and so we're going to just go through them with you now. As seen at the chart on the top left, we currently have 7 projects in progress, 4 of which were launched in 2025. The chart on the bottom shows that in the first half of 2025, we had 11 new collaboration requests, so departments or divisions or teams that wanted to work with us, exceeding the requests that were made in 2024. Our collaborators continue to indicate that they have a positive experience working with our team, as seen in the top middle chart. This reflects our concerted effort to build strong relationships throughout the city. We take feedback from this survey to improve our services. We regularly engage with staff, and since our last update to this committee on February 18th, we held around 80 new engagements. Through these engagements, which are shown in the chart on the right, we've worked with all city departments and offices. Many of those engagements were in support of Outcomes Minneapolis and budget metric development. We have steadily expanded our technical assistance offerings as well, and we'll share a little bit about those later in the presentation. Our Outcomes Minneapolis work has shifted from measure development to data assistance and to continuous improvement, while our budget work has continued to focus on measure development and refinement. Tracking this data helps us see where we are and where we have the capacity to continue building our operations and tailoring our offerings to meet the needs of the city. City Council, staff, and the public can view our progress through our dashboard. It was previously hosted on our City Talk webpage and is now available on the city's external performance management page. You'll also hear a little bit about that in the rest of our presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Wansley, council members. My name is Rebecca Fife, and I am a business process and data analyst with PMI. Another external resource that demonstrates the city's commitment to data-driven decision-making is the mayoral dashboard, a first-of-its-kind resource at the city that highlights key metrics connected to the mayor's priorities in a single place. By aligning departments' work with measurable goals, the mayor is showing performance in his key priority areas. Externally, this dashboard allows residents to see how well we're delivering effective services and also builds trust through increased transparency. The dashboard's first section launched in mid-June with measures focused on one of the city's most foundational commitments, community safety. Pulling together data from across the Office of Community Safety showcases how city departments are working in a coordinated, data-informed way to reduce harm and build safer communities. The second section launched earlier this month and looks at recruitment measures, with a focus on recruitment in our safety departments. Additional sections will be released over the coming months, each focused on another mayoral priority area. Additionally, as we've shared previously, Outcomes Minneapolis, the city's performance management framework, is building a culture of continuous improvement in the enterprise. The city has made great strides in the areas of communicating impacts, analyzing data for actionable insights, and identifying potential adjustments to improve our outcomes. Our upcoming slides will detail progress made over the past quarter.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Willman. I'm a program manager with PMI. In May, we launched a new performance management webpage. This public-facing platform marks an important step forward in strengthening transparency and supporting accountability. It gives both the public and city staff easy access to key performance data and updates, allowing anyone to see how we're doing, what progress is being made, and where attention may be needed. This platform is part of how we're evolving the way we share the city's progress. It offers an easy, interactive way to engage with performance data and complements existing tools like LIMS, which has long provided public access to city performance data. Making data more accessible is an important first step towards fostering a data-driven culture. It lays the groundwork for reflection, informed decision-making, and continuous improvement across the enterprise. We also want to extend a special thank you to all the dedicated staff whose hard work and collaboration made this possible, particularly the efforts of Shelby Vandenberg from the City Clerk's Office and several individuals from the IT department, including Tim Condon, Rick Paulson, Tyler Bausch, Julia Stantosnik, Hunter Wolf, Lynn Figg, and Colette Abu-Reem. They were all instrumental in ensuring a successful launch. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Stunens, he, him, and I'm a program manager. The work that Kyle just shared set the stage for what lives on the web page. Performance stories and interactive dashboards developed with departments and city staff across the enterprise. These visualizations help department leaders and the public quickly identify trends, track progress, and understand the impact of city services. On the slide, you can see 2 different examples of this work, demonstrating how we can adapt our approach based on the needs of each department. By combining data visualizations with context and narrative, these dashboards and stories make it easier for everyone to understand what departments are doing and why it matters. Since our last update, a majority of departments, 93%, and offices have published dashboards or performance stories, a major milestone that increases visibility and strengthens our internal learning. We want to thank all the city staff who contributed to this work, demonstrating our city's commitment to transparency and good governance. The data from the dashboards and the performance stories then set the stage for our next workshop with departments and offices. The workshop, titled Understanding Performance and Opportunities, practices analyzing data for actionable insights and making changes to improve outcomes. PMI staff analyzed each department's unique performance data and researched evidence-based examples of how other local governments have worked to address similar situations to spark conversations and ideas about actionable responses during the workshop. At the bottom of the slide, we've provided an example of what this looked like in practice. We partnered with Intergovernmental Relations to develop an impact story highlighting achievements and advocacy from the 2023-2024 session. Part of this story included data on collaboration with city departments to develop policy priorities. IGR then wanted to deepen their existing data about performance for internal collaboration, and PMI analysts identified potential areas of focus and measurement. This specific insight then resulted in 3 considerations for the department that will support robust data collection and performance tracking. And so Intergovernmental Relations and Performance Management Innovation will work together to implement these considerations and establish stakeholder feedback loops to explore engagement effectiveness. So then zooming up to a higher level to facilitate these workshops, PMI staff have spent over 75 hours analyzing, researching, and developing considerations to model our performance management cycle in concert with our partners. And with this step complete, the city has moved through 1 full cycle of the performance management approach since launching outcomes in April 2024.
Building off the insight development process in our Understanding Performance and Opportunity workshops, we also developed a lunch and learn opportunity called Owning Your Performance Story. This workshop provided city staff with knowledge and tools to implement performance management reviews at the departmental level, further integrating performance management work into departmental operations. A performance management data review guides reflection by asking questions about trends we're seeing in the data and identifying what actions we can take to move closer to our goals. Resources like a sample agenda to guide the discussion and highlight key questions to ask were developed alongside this lunch and learn to support a deep dive into departments' unique data and program outcomes, further promoting data-driven decision-making. This contributes to our ongoing Outcomes Minneapolis work by empowering teams to develop insights from their data and operationalize taking action on those insights.
Launched during our Understanding Performance Opportunities workshop, these technical assistance buckets support continuous improvement. Technical assistance opportunities are tailored to the problem at hand and prioritize innovative and evidence-based solutions that center equitable, community-focused responses and emphasize low-cost and no-cost options when possible. Balancing partnership opportunities for departments of all sizes supports sustainable performance improvement work. We're excited to kick off this suite of services with the technical assistance that was mentioned earlier with intergovernmental relations. That engagement work is some of what the partnership could look like.
Good Good afternoon, Chair Wansley and City Council members. My name is Bethlehem Yahalawork, and I am a program manager with PMI. So we continue to work closely with the Budget Office and departments to strengthen performance reporting and ensure funding decisions are meaningfully connected to impact. And this includes refining the performance section of departmental budget proposals and updating the budget book with metrics that reflect the intended impact of newly funded work. We're also exploring opportunities to provide technical assistance to departments in collecting and reporting on metrics identified in their budget proposals. This effort aims to ensure data is being collected and available for reporting, which supports data transparency and enables data-informed decision-making across the enterprise. One strategy that we've begun brainstorming with the Budget Office is to include additional details with performance metrics, as you can see here on the slide, in the table, which outlines each department's proposed metrics, benchmarks, targets, actual performance data, and its alignment with city goals. This work complements the Budget Office's broader efforts to align budget documentation with the Government Finance Officers Association, also known as GFOA, best practices. GFOA is the leading professional organization for government finance and sets the national standard for excellence. This year, the city of Minneapolis was recognized by GFOA with 2 distinctions, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award and the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. These honors reflect the city's continued commitment to financial transparency and accountability. We continue to explore opportunities to align funding with impact to support the city's efforts to make data-informed funding decisions. Implementing performance-based contracting at the city will support our ability to track impact, increase transparency, and support a culture of data-driven decision-making. One way that we're doing this work is by integrating performance-based contracting in the city by collaborating directly with departments to refine RFPs and contracts. A recent example of this work is our collaboration with Department of Civil Rights to include performance measures into a contract which focuses on supporting workers who have experienced wage theft or other labor violations. These measures focus on the depth of service and the ability to move workers towards resolution, like the number of outreaches to workers, number of intake consultations, and the number of workers provided with ongoing support for resolution with employers. The new contract is informed by comparative research and provides clearer guidance for the vendor, helping to focus efforts on the most impactful activities. The vendor will submit quarterly reports to the department, which will form the basis of quarterly meetings to assess progress towards goals and support accountability and transparency.
Chair Wansley, council members, my name is Andra Bosniak, and I'm the Deputy Director of Performance Management and Innovation. To expand our impact and scale our efforts in performance-based contracting, we are partnering with Results for America to explore best practices, tap into subject matter expertise, and learn from the experiences of other cities implementing similar strategies. Since our last update to this committee, we have completed the gift acceptance process to receive technical assistance and have begun preliminary planning activities. The first phase of this collaboration includes an on-site training led by Results for America in August. City staff from several departments will work alongside experts to develop frameworks and templates that support staff capacity building and a consistent outcomes-focused approach to contract development and oversight. Insights from the training will inform our next steps in the city as we engage with stakeholders to explore opportunities for integrating an enterprise-wide performance-based contracting approach to RFPs and contracts. Another way we're helping strengthen city services is by offering enterprise-wide survey assistance. Since this is a new resource, we're actively building awareness so departments know that they can reach out to PMI as their survey efforts come up. This support will include reviewing surveys developed by departments to help ensure content is clear, inclusive, and focused on gathering feedback that builds on what we already know, respects people's times, and informs service improvements. On this slide, you'll see a resource we've shared with city staff around best practices for survey design, along with how to connect with PMI for survey reviews. We soft launched the resource at NCR's monthly community engagement meeting and will roll out to all city staff next month.
Innovation U is part of Performance Management and Innovation's broader approach to creating small C culture change through capacity building. Since we last reported in Q1, we've launched the first 2 courses in our Innovation U series that train, upskill, and empower city staff to improve their work through performance management. The courses, Why Performance Management Matters, and a second one, Developing Outcome Measures, are available to all city employees in common and offer a common set of tools and guidance for participating in data-driven work. For example, the Developing Measures That Matter course leads learners through the process of creating and selecting metrics. Now, when a partner comes to performance management innovation, they can have measures in hand, and the consultation can start with a customized, nuanced response rather than a general approach to making measures. This saves time for both PMI and our partners. We've been promoting Innovation U through multiple channels in connection with our goal of building a data-driven culture. That includes City Talk recent news, the Minneapolis Matters email, learning and development newsletters, the department head meeting with follow-up, as well as an announcement at the Data Collaborative. We look forward to adding to this learning series and making more courses, tools, and resources available to support impactful and innovative work across the city.
We're excited to continue exploring potential collaboration opportunities with the enterprise. To learn more about our work, please visit the performance management page on the city website. There you can track our ongoing projects and partnerships in real time through the PMI project dashboard, gaining insight into our impact by collaborator, outcome area, and specific objectives. If departments have a project, initiative, or technical assistance support that they would like to explore with us, we encourage them to reach out through our collaboration request form. We review the project and schedule an informational meeting to learn more. For any other inquiries or more individual questions, contact us directly at innovate@minneapolismn.gov. We look forward to learning more about enterprise interests and exploring how we can partner together for greater impact. This concludes our presentation, and we can stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. I'll wait to see if I put myself in queue. All right, Vice Chair Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Over the years, we've had various fits and starts for performance evaluation that never really took root, but it feels like we finally have this up and running. So thank you. Thank you to you and your team, Director Hasbergen. Have you now been able to use results to help shape the development of departmental budgets? I ask because in this current budget era of budget deficits, I'm trying to make sure that all of our decisions, whether they're coming from the mayor or from council amendments, are going to be data-based.
Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, thank you very much for that question. Yes, I think right now, again, the focus in the first full year of Outcomes Minneapolis was really getting those training wheels on with city staff, right, to really understand what is performance management, like what is a good metric. We have worked hand in glove with the budget team, with Director DeCinza's team, and have worked to refine the measures that have been selected for new funding. So similar to last year, we met with all of the departments who had proposals that were moved through, approved new funding, to really understand those measures, and are working with them to understand what it's going to look like to then start collecting and analyzing that data. We also shared that we have Outcomes Minneapolis, right, as sort of the data visualizations and some of those impact stories. So I think those are, again, what the departments have identified as core and critical. So some of it may be about budgeting decisions. Some of them, again, may not be specifically programmatically based. So I think, as we shared In this slide, we're very much looking forward to working with the Budget Office to make that connection stronger, to really understand how we can start demonstrating that more specifically with data. But the budget metrics, after they were approved, departments worked with us over a series of months to update those performance metrics in that section, and those are now updated on the OpenGov budget.
Thank you. So when the budget is turned over to council for amendments and adoption, will you proactively or if not brought into the conversation, reactively then engage with council to make sure that our decisions are going to be rooted in data, whether it's decreasing a line item or adding a new program, increasing a program, something else?
Yeah, Chair Wansley, Vice Chair Palmisano, I think that's something that we'd be very happy to do. I think we now have done a fair amount of workshops. Each department had the opportunity to have customized workshops for both of those first two steps, and I think that would be a partnership that we would be very glad to speak with the council, with the budget committee, and what would be helpful in those, in sort of developing measures and what to look for. Some of that may be in those learnings, but I think understanding specifically what you all may be interested in learning would be a partnership that we would welcome.
Thank you.
And next, I have myself in queue, kind of building on some of the points that Vice Chair Palmisano raised. I think there's been a long-standing conversation amongst council in terms of the need for more measurable outcomes and metrics to actually determine which programs are being successful. And I think and you just iterated this or reaffirmed this, that the focus of this past year for OPI has been building inroads into departments, building up that technical assistance like trusted partners on how to craft that. But I think where you're highlighting is actually where I don't see in this presentation, or still I think a number of us are desiring, and I know a number of us relate this to Mayor Fry in our budget meetings with him around at the programmatic level. Like, are we looking retroactively of like what's on the books, and are there even metrics, because sometimes it has felt as metrics have been set arbitrarily around political needs or expediency. Like, how are we actually defining success for every program that's on the books to actually determine, do we need to proceed forward with that? And where I often get confused around OPI's role is some of the departments actually have adopted plans that set a baseline for many of those metrics. Like, for example, the Transportation Action Plan, just looking at theirs, and one of their main goals by 2030 is to have 3 out of 5 or 3 out of every 5 trips be taken by other means of transportation that isn't a car, such as walking, biking, those things. And so Public Works has that as a measurable outcome. And for instance, when they bring forward a program like As You Go, Pay As You Go, then we can determine, does that program actually align with that metric, and should we continue funding it? I don't think we have that level of information. It's very unclear if that's where we should be looking to OPI. Is that where we should be looking to oversight and evaluation on our legislative branch side? Because I think that level of detail of performance metrics is what has been most needed for us to make better informed budget decisions, because most times we don't know what's all on the books and if they're actually being responsive to the needs of our constituents. So I don't know if that is somewhere in the work plan. Also, actually, a question around that I believe I had asked COO Margaret Anderson Kelleher around, like, is there a definitive point where departments will have to give an exhaustive metric list that can be publicly interfacing, presented on, like, is there a 2026 or something like that where that is going to be finalized? Because right now it is like, sounds like you all are doing department by department based off of who are submitting requests for collaboration.
Chair Wansley, thank you for that question. I think the short version is, if on the public site right now, I think almost all of the departments do have a public list of metrics that they felt in their engagement with us was core and critical to their work. It may not be at the program level, as you both have sort of said, but they have talked about what are those services that they feel are the bread and butter, right, of the department. So those have been published. We did get strong support from the mayor's office as well as the COO and the DCOs to move those forward. Again, when we spoke with you last, due to transition, one again being the auditor's office, the auditor again wanted to wait to sort of see what the operations were going to look like before selecting measures. So I think they're almost all departments and offices have been represented. That is public and available on the website. From a budgeting perspective, I think, again, I cannot speak to, the response and the direction that City Operations Officer Anderson Kelleher gave you, or the mayor, but I can say that we have been working with them to take that big step back and really focus on the city as a whole, and what those services are and what the impact is and what the true cost is. That is in our next phase. I think we have departments, like you've mentioned, who are at different levels of maturity in their performance management journey. And so that is something that we are working towards. We've talked to you about working towards a city stat, right, type of here are the core measures, here's something we're looking at. I think the mayoral dashboard, which we had up on one of our slides, and I believe that you all did get something from the mayor's office, is monthly, and it's showing some, pretty key performance metrics and sort of what that performance looks like. So I think, as I look back and think we've only been at this for a little over a year, we'll be excited to move forward in the way that you mentioned, partnering with the budget office to make sure it goes hand in glove with that process. I'm very excited by the work that we've already done in identifying performance metrics about what the impact of new funding is going to be, and then in really working with departments to set targets and baselines. I think, again, as you mentioned with that public works, what are we actually trying to get to, right? What is the performance level to us that is appropriate? And so I think we are making very good strides in bringing all of the departments and offices together. It only really being less than a year from starting from zero, and that's something that we look forward to in 2026, and seeing where we can take that with the budget office. So to me, that's where it would sort of make sense on that front end. So it's sort of part of what they're doing. But I, again, don't want to speak for Director DeCinza and what her plans are and how she sees collecting different data, but we have been very successful, and departments have been very open to really saying, yeah, like I want to have measures that are going to be reflective of the impact and the people that this new funding is going to help. Sorry, that was a very long answer. Where it's something that I think is in our next phase, and I will just say I think as an enterprise with the staff, we need to walk before we run, as they say, and I think that's definitely something that is on the horizon as we consider the maturity of the city's performance management program.
Thank you for that, Director. And maybe this is a follow-up conversation then with the legislative side, because I think, again, honing in on the programmatic level, I think that is the biggest piece where we're all trying to get a sense, especially since some of those programs were crafted in response to strategic plans like the SREAP, for instance, that apparently from our own REIB department's mouths have said that needs to be completely overhauled, and don't know the status of that. But if we're having programs that were created in response to plans that are no longer active, okay, then we need to reevaluate what's the funding around that. And also, again, defining what does success look like in our new terrain. And maybe that's another piece around strategic planning, because as you mentioned, most of these things, which I absolutely am appreciative of us doing the publicizing of the data. The dashboards are great, but they're shaped around the mayor's priorities. And I mentioned the transportation action plan. Those were plans that were shaped by both branches around our constituent needs and then how they need to be implemented on the executive side. Sometimes those things don't always align, but that is I think, greatest examples of our strategic plans of upholding the actual real city priorities. And that's not what the dashboards are responding to right now. So I think maybe, again, I don't know if that's following with our clerk's office around our legislative side, evaluation side around how do we get to the programmatic level detail? Because yes, I get departments have overarching, but that has been consistently, I think, an unmet need around what's going on with that, and trying to get sense if you all were kind of the place to help problem solve around that, or just trying to get a sense of how do we reconcile addressing that mammoth of an issue too in our budget process. But with that, only comments I had, I think no one else is in queue. Double checking before. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Director Hasbergen and your team for the presentation. And yeah, lots of more follow conversations, and we'll see from budget around these metrics, and I'm pretty sure a lot more dialogue around that.
Yep.
Thank you. Next, well, I will ask the clerk's office to receive and file that presentation. Last, we will have, oh, that's not right.
I love it.
Okay, final item is a receive and file presentation regarding neighborhood and community relations department supporting residents with disabilities. I'll ask Director Karen Moe to come up and kick us off.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Moe. I'm the Director of Neighborhood and Community Relations here with the City of Minneapolis. We're going to be sharing a little bit of information about some of the work the city does regarding creating a culture of accessibility, specifically centering our community residents with people with disabilities. I'm joined here today by one of my colleagues, Guthrie, who works for the city, and then one of our community partners, Ken, who's been very patient and at both the rescheduling of this presentation as well as sitting through today's presentations. We're here today to request receive and file from City Council, and I do want to say thank you, Councilmember or Chair Wansley, for inviting us to present on this topic. We really appreciate your attention to this. Within the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department, we often refer to ourselves as NCR. I would say our goal really is to create a culture of accessibility throughout the entire enterprise. That's something we take very serious, and so today we're going to touch on some of the things which include compliance, but really we believe that we have a responsibility to go above and beyond compliance and to really center our community of residents with disabilities. And so today we're going to present a whole handful of things that we do, which is really just a representation of some of the things that the city does overall. But it will include a brief touch on the American with Disabilities Act, as well the role of the community specialist for people with disabilities, which we're very proud to have here in the city of Minneapolis, as well as talking about our relationship with our community through the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities, as well as highlighting an upcoming event that we hope to see you all at. I want to touch first on the American with Disabilities Act. This is one of the main civil rights acts for our community of people with disabilities, and it really does, it's a significant body. It was signed on July 26, 1990. As you can do the math quickly, you'll note that it's 35 years this year since the signing of this piece of legislation. The main act, it bars discrimination for people with disabilities in many settings, including local government jurisdictions. It's important to celebrate this not just because this is a Civil Rights Act and this really does provide guidance for us in some ways. It is also to honor the people who fought very hard to have this piece of legislation passed. And so I do want to make sure that we also honor people who came before us and are here today also that were significant in passing this bill. The American with Disabilities Act, often referred to as ADA, has three main bodies in there, which is Title I, which addresses employment, Title II, which addresses city government, and Title III, which addresses public accommodations. I have to point out that there's no way for one department to be responsible for complying with this, as well as assuring that we go above and beyond. So this really is an entire enterprise responsibility. Title I obviously is in the hands of human resources predominantly. Title II really is around accessing city government, whether that's programs, services, coming to city council meetings, contacting your city council members, as well as a whole slew of other bodies of work that we want to make sure people have access to. And Title III is public accommodations, and this would be things that would fall under many different departments, but including code and construction services, regulatory services, civil rights, and beyond. Within the ADA, one of the things that we aim to do is to make sure that there's at least one person designated in the city that's under the Title II. We call that the Title II coordinator here within the city of Minneapolis. And I have the honor of sitting in the position that has been designated by the city as being the Title II coordinator on behalf of the city of Minneapolis. So that's part of the reason why we're here, is this body of work in terms of assuring compliance sits within our department. But I also want to note that, as I mentioned before, we really do aim to go above and beyond and make sure that we create a whole culture of accessibility. I'm going to turn it over now to our community specialist for people with disabilities, Guthrie. But the significant piece in that position is Guthrie does a lot of the work on a daily basis, and he's going to share a little bit about that. But he also does work at promoting and nurturing a culture here within the city of Minneapolis, making sure that all of our city employees understand what it means to center on people with disabilities. So with that, I'm going to ask Guthrie to come up.
Welcome, Guthrie.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Wansley and committee members. Guthrie Byard, Community Specialist for People with Disabilities. Happy Disability Pride Month, the few days that we have left here in July. And then another plug for the Americans with Disabilities Act turned 35 on Saturday. Also, Saturday night, the 35W Bridge was there were the 5 disability pride flag colors that were lit up under the 35W bridge. I don't know if anybody saw that, but exciting. I think part of my work is also to be expanding what it means to be celebrating having a disability or disabilities, talking about disability pride, not just emphasizing the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I'm proud that to be able to move that work forward. So there are 4 main buckets to the work that I do. ADA grievances, as Director Moe had mentioned, so there's an emphasis on compliance, obviously, but in the work that I do as a community specialist for people with disabilities, it's important that we're going beyond just compliance and looking at building bridges with community, bringing in people who historically have not been a part of city programs and services. That's a huge bulk of the work that I do. Also going to talk a bit about our ADA transition plans and the ADA action plan, our digital accessibility efforts that are ever growing here, and then the city's advisory committee on people with disabilities. I'll hand it over to the chair of that committee, Ken Rogers, to talk about the history of that committee. So ADA grievances. So as Karen mentioned, there's 3 main titles to the ADA. Under ADA's Title II, which is city and local governments, we need to have an ADA grievance process in place, which we do. It's on our public website within NCR section. And I field all of those ADA complaints that come in. And so what that means is that on any given day, I could be working with any one of our departments. So today, in fact, I was working with Code and Construction Services. A lot of times we get complaints about elevators being out at apartment complexes. I'll work with the sidewalks team because we have issues with sidewalks being broken up. Or work with our ADA ped ramp team because our curb cuts are falling apart, that kind of thing, and highlighting that those need to be escalated. So that's a true benefit of my job, is that I can work with any one of the departments at any given time. So I mentioned the ADA transition plans and ADA action plans. So under Title II, the city is required to have an ADA transition plan. So while that primarily resides within Public Works, I work closely with them. And so for folks who may not have gone through that plan, it's updated every 2 years, and it looks at essentially city public right-of-way. So our streets, our curb cuts. So the ADA is 35 years old, but we all know that there are plenty of curb cuts that look like they haven't been touched since they were first put in. And so we work with Public Works to identify the ones that are coming in as continual complaints to try to escalate those, because the city residents are saying, hey, these are ones that we use a lot and there's issues with them. Also, in 2016, the city went through a full-scale audit of all of the city-owned and leased facilities. And so within Property Services, they have their own ADA transition plan. This is available on our website as well. That goes through all of the deficiencies under the ADA that were identified. And so you can take a look at that. As you might imagine, there were quite a few with City Hall that were being addressed as part of the renovation process. Some that were part of leased facilities that we no longer have. And so it's really important to be updating that on an annual basis to reflect where we're at with that. And then I mentioned the ADA action plan. So this is not legally required, but it's a commitment that the city has. And within NCR, we manage the ADA action plan. I'll talk a little bit about that in subsequent slides. But it's really important for us to be promoting that we have an ADA action plan that looks at what are we doing to address the culture of accessibility at the city, be it physical or digital, and how are we bringing in staff as well as community members to kind of better understand what it means for us to be more accessible beyond just what is required under the ADA. So I mentioned the ADA action plan. In 2016, there was an audit. So at that time, the initial or current ADA action plan was put into place. When I arrived 2 years ago, one of the first things that I did was start working on updating that ADA action plan. So there was a robust community engagement process last spring and summer, both I would say community as well as staff. So I met with each department, the head of each department as well, to identify what is working, what is not working, what's your perception of accessibility, be it digital or physical, in the work that you do, and where can we improve? And so it was really rooted in collaboration, not just in community, but across all of our departments. And so that led to a recommendations plan. And right now, the ADA action plan is under review by the Attorney's Office. And that was preceded by a May public comment period, and then reaching back out to all of the departments to share that draft plan with them to make sure that that aligned with the feedback that they provided. Because really, this does impact every department. There's really no department that is immune from improving the accessibility of their work, especially just given the nature of us being city government employees. Digital accessibility is one that, you know, it's an umbrella term, but it's extremely important to be aware of. So when you're thinking about all of the PDFs that the city has on its website, all of our PowerPoints that are presented, anything that's public facing, are the announcement that you make about live captioning at the beginning, all that falls under digital accessibility, especially if folks are streaming these presentations online. And in the spring of '24, the Department of Justice issued out a rule saying by the end of April of 2026, the city needs to be in compliance with what's known as Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, specifically 2.1 Level 2A. So since that rule was made, we've worked across the enterprise on a department level, and particularly a director level, to really understand what is the breadth and depth of the impact of this rule, really getting at things like our dashboards, again, the PDFs that we find so prevalent on our websites, our social media accessibility practices, things like that, really trying to get a sense of where all of our digital kind of content resides and how accessible or inaccessible that is. And so working across key departments like communications, the attorney's office, IT, things like that, and thinking about web development and design, it's really critical that we have the right people looking at that work. And then on a staff level, we have a community of practice, and so a lot of key staff, I think right now, upwards of 30 folks that meet, and we just train each other. Like we have workshops and we talk about different things. So upcoming, we've got one on accessible PowerPoint presentations, and this is all rooted on what staff members are saying they need assistance on. And so that work is really integral as well as we're working towards the WCAG standards. I should say, too, we have a dedicated City Talk accessibility page. And so this is a dynamic page in that it's updated as we're doing on-demand trainings, as we're putting together guides, checklists, things like that. And we're continually promoting through our newsletters, our internal newsletters and our external newsletters to let folks know that we are actively working on this. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the upcoming ADA and Disability Pride event. So that's this Wednesday, July 30th from 5 to 8 p.m., Public Service Building, Room 100. And it's a free event. You go to www.minneapolismn.gov/ADA35. You can register and take a look at the program there. Really excited about the program this year. I mentioned at the outset that, this month is not just about the ADA, but it's also about disability pride, and trying to get that into the vernacular for the city is that every July is a focus on disability pride, not just on protecting and preserving the rights under the ADA as a really important civil rights law for those with disabilities. And so with that, earlier this month, the Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities worked with the Mayor's Office to issue out a proclamation for Disability Pride Month, and that'll be read out at the event. And then last Thursday, there was a resolution honoring the 35th anniversary of the ADA, and that'll also be read out as well. And there'll also be more conversation in the form of a panel with critical community members, including Justin Page, who is Assistant Attorney within the Department of Justice, to talk about the legal landscape of the ADA going forward, understanding just the political climate and the risks for folks with disabilities right now. I think that's really important. There'll also be a conversation about Disability Pride Month, how it started, as well as kind of background on the Disability Pride flag. I'm now going to hand it over to the chair of the Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities, Ken Rogers, to talk about the committee, an overview of the committee, and how the committee is going to work with you all going forward.
Hello, Ken. Hi.
And the microphone is right here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Wansley and committee members. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
My name is Ken Rogers. I'm the current chair of the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities, and I'm very pleased to announce to you this is something we have not ever been able to do in my tenure on this committee, is to announce that we have a full 15-member appointed committee. It's a first. Thank you. And the reason why I think we've been able to have this success of having all of our seats filled is due to the work that Guthrie has done behind the scenes to make sure that our communications got out very widely to our community. We have tried over the years and tried and tried and tried, but we haven't had a staff person that's been dedicated to supporting our committee as fully as we do today. For that, I'm eternally grateful to the Neighborhood Community Relations Office for making that a priority and really putting into context the fact that the city really does support being inclusive and accessible to all of its citizens, including people with disabilities. We've been sort of in the past left to do our work without a lot of structure or support. And we've done that. We've done that. But with a full complement of members, of 15 members, the sky is the limit. We can really advance our agenda and move forward. And speaking of agenda, let me just say, in short, our agenda is to make and ensure, provide support to every city department to ensure that every activity, every program, every plan, every policy includes people with disabilities and what their needs might be. There should be no longer anybody not able to access something, whether it's a parade, whether it's an event on Nicollet Mall, or a web page. Makes me a little nervous listening to the presentation earlier about all the dashboards. I just have to tell you, from my perspective, I have not met too many dashboards that are fully accessible for people like me who use screen readers to access digital equipment or data. So I'm really going to look at that and make sure. And not to point a finger that something's not working, but our goal as a committee is to be a resource. We are people that live every day with disabilities. We can't take them off. We can't take a break. We know what it's like to exist with our disabilities. We do not expect that everybody else that does not live with a disability understands our perspective or where we're coming from. So this is the beauty of our committee, the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities, is to serve as the resource, the the place to come when you're not sure. Public Works is a great example. They come to us with a plan in mind. This is what we have in mind. We're going to do X, Y, Z. And what's your input? And then the disability members give them their input. Well, this sounds like a great thing, but for me and my community, I need whatever it is. And then they take note of that, take that back, rework the plan, rework the program, and then devise and implement a program that works for everybody. Our advice isn't always taken, much to our chagrin, but we still provide it. And that's, we can't make any department do anything, but if we do our work collaboratively and as a resource to the city and to all the departments, to the city council, to the mayor's office, if we do our work effectively, we can help reduce the legal liability that we have as a community, as an organization. And I do want to just share with you the number of lawsuits that cities across the nation are getting these days is increasing exponentially. People with disabilities are not satisfied with the status quo anymore. It's been 35 years. It shouldn't be something that needs to be an afterthought. And so a lot of people are filing lawsuits against city governments that aren't stepping up. And that's our charge as a committee, is to reduce that liability by really giving good advice and good recommendations. And that's our goal. We don't want to tell people what to do. We want to work with people to help them understand what it is that our community has as specific needs that need to be addressed because it's the law. And it needs to be addressed because it's the right thing to do for our city to be fully inclusive and accessible. We were established in 1973 and have struggled along all these years. The committee itself has transitioned from a lot of different models in the past. But I strongly believe that members that sit on our committee have an expertise. It's what they live with every day. They know what it's like. And we know that other people don't know what we experience. So it's our responsibility and duty to share that information so that we can end up creating a much more accessible and fully inclusive, project or activity or policy. So sometimes, in the past I've heard we're the disability police. Maybe in the past we had that reputation, but today we want to be the resource that everybody comes to in order to get feedback on what is it that our community needs that is different from their own awareness. Sharing our perceptions and awareness of what it's like to live in our shoes can really help us ensure that our programs are fully accessible to everyone. So that's our goal. That's what we wish to do. And I have to, just in closing, say one thing. Community Relations Department has been our partner through it all. Over the years, staff come and go, departments change, leadership. We have been promised many, many years ago that we would have really dedicated support. And while we may have arguably had support from the office, until Guthrie was hired as the disability specialist, we have not had direct support like we now have. And I think it's because of that, and because of that single move, we have been able to be much more successful in our recommendations and our collaboration with city departments and with city council and with the mayor's office. So I commend you on the work that you do and trying to keep abreast of all of the projects going on. It's my role to make sure that people with disabilities get included and not left out along the way. We have a phrase in our community, nothing about us without us. We just want to be at the table. because that's when the collaboration happens. That's when the networking happens. That's when learning happens. And again, we don't expect people to understand without having some kind of collaboration what it's like living a different kind of a life than what someone may have as their own experiences. So again, thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about our committee. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about the work we do, very passionate about this committee, and we want to do the best, and we serve as a resource to you as well. So thank you. With that, any questions for us?
Thank you so much, Ken. Also, a shout out to Guthrie.
Thank you. And with that,
today.
we are finished. We'll stand for questions.
Awesome. I see Councilmember Cashman in queue.
Thank you so much, Chair Wansley, Director Moe, Guthrie, and Ken for the presentation. I just had a quick question about your interaction with regulatory services. And then the reason I asked this is there is a 36-story high-rise in my ward that recently had almost all of its elevators break to the point where they were down to one elevator for nearly 500 residents. And it was taking 20, 30, 40 minutes for that elevator to come, which is very dangerous, obviously. And so do you have any process by which you get 311 complaints like this for residents to be able to really just assist with putting urgency on inspectors and other folks to address these kinds of housing issues when they are clearly dangerous to the well-being of the residents there?
Chair Wansley, Councilmember Cashman, I'm going to have Guthrie answer the question and explain the 311 process, the grievance process.
Thank you, Councilmember Cashman and committee. So when folks submit a complaint through 311, what I've done in the time that I've been here as well is make sure that folks can check that there's an accessibility issue, and that flags me specifically, so I get those in more real time than trying to find it in any other method. And then to your point about the elevators being out, that is one that I think I mentioned during my presentation as well, that is happening quite a bit. And so a lot of times, we understand that elevators are going to go out, right? It's how quickly are they being fixed? And more importantly, what is the communication to the residents when elevators are going out? And so a lot of times I'm working with the individual to find out how long has the elevators been out? What has the communication been like from the property management company, if not the building owner? What commitments have been made? If there's been no communication, can you get me contact information? We can identify who the property management company is or the owner is, while also notifying housing liaisons that these issues are occurring. Because in some cases there needs to be some temporary processes put in place as far as notifying other residents or family members about the need to run errands, things of that nature, but also placing on the property management company or owner the expectation that these issues are addressed as soon as possible, and in taking in good faith that they are working as quickly as possible to address these issues. But we are noticing that they're happening quite a bit, and where I think also regulatory services can come into play too is looking at elevators being out of compliance, where they're no longer valid, where the permits are outdated, and finding out if the permits are outdated, then being able to actually go and cite them if necessary. But the expectation is always to try to communicate as much as possible what might be going on, and assuming that if an elevator is out, that they are working as quickly as possible to rectify the issue. But it can be a complex issue for sure. And so in some cases too, where it might be out for quite a while, we're looking at requesting reasonable accommodation. So we might be asking for a vacant apartment complex on the main floor that somebody can temporarily move to if necessary, if this is going to be a long-term elevator outage. And in some cases, that has happened. But I would say more often than not, it's an elevator that's out for a very short period of time, but it's the owners of the property management company that's not properly communicating that in real time, putting up signage, whatever their listserv is, however else they're getting mass communication out to. So that can certainly be an issue issue. But I think where I come in is just kind of being that glue and figuring out how do we bring in some of these different departments to really identify these issues and flag them if they're repeat issues at certain apartment complexes.
Yeah, thank you for being a resource, to the city departments, but also to residents, because I think there's a lot of folks who still don't know about 311, and I'm always trying to talk to residents, like, please, make these cases so that the city can be there for you. And so I think there's always so much more to do to just remind residents that we're here for them, and I think, this is one of those ways, and you and your role are doing a good job of being available to residents who do need help, like in this case at LPM. So thank you.
Awesome. I don't see anyone else in queue.
Can I
Final
just,
word?
Chair Watson,
Yeah.
can I just, one additional piece in response to Councilmember Cashman's questions? I will say, every year I come up here for the budget address, I offer for folks to look at the dashboard that we've had on our website for a number of years, and we do actually track the number of calls that come into 311. And because, as Guthrie mentioned, some of those are going to be references to other city departments like regulatory services or other departments that may be able to assist in addressing the inaccessibility, but a lot of times those are also to other government entities or to private business owners. We also track those calls and refer those calls to the appropriate place. So you can actually go to our dashboard to see the number of calls. I think one of the things that will happen in the coming years is, as Guthrie is working with 311 and with other departments to really hone in on really the type of calls that should be coming our way, you may see some shift, but up to this point, there's been a historical reference that you can look at to see the types of calls coming in every year.
Thank you for that. And I just had a quick question regarding the updated ADA plan that's currently under review by the city attorney's office. Do we have a tentative timeline when that, assuming they, proceed? Pretty straightforward, like a targeted goal for that to be published.
Chair Wansley, thank you so much for the question. I will say the city attorney has been a great partner with us throughout this entire process. And I also do want to acknowledge that there was quite a bit of engagement that Guthrie led, both internally in the city and with staff and department heads and with community members. I think it's, at this point, any day now is our expectation. We're really hoping to get it finalized and then just go through the process of informing folks and posting it on our website. We'll make sure to send an email to all of you,
Awesome. Yes.
as well as send something out through our newsletter so community members know that the action plan is updated.
Yes, awesome. Super appreciate that. Look forward to receiving that email. I'll double down on Ken's comments for council members to go visit the advisory body on people with disabilities. They were a nice bunch when I went. Didn't get too much smoke, so that was great. Can't promise that for everyone, but definitely encourage my colleagues to go visit. And if there's other or upcoming legislative items that colleagues are moving forward with, please also use that as an opportunity to engage with our advisory board around disabilities and accessibility matters, but all of our boards. I think you hit on a piece of oftentimes our advisory boards and commissions feeling underutilized, and they are also, in addition to staff, are subject matter experts, and wants to make sure that we're fully utilizing you all and your expertise as we're also working to make the city better and more accessible and inclusive. So just wanted to plug that. If you also haven't connected with your own appointee, which that's also very exciting to hear that we have a full board. Casey, Clerk Carl will be very happy to hear that. Yes. So,
and
yeah.
you can come meet your representative this Wednesday at the event that we're having over at the Public Service Building. So please come on out and join us.
Double plug. Will there be snacks?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, there will be food. Yes, there will be food.
Man, we like that. Okay, no. But awesome. Thank you so much, Director Mo and Guthrie and Ken, for joining and giving that presentation. I will ask the clerks to receive and file that presentation as well. And with that, we have concluded all business on our agenda today. So with that, I call this meeting adjourned.